Good evening and welcome to the State of the Liberation Movement with Secretary Martin Mungwa, PhD, F.ASCE Fellow of the American Society of Civil Engineers. And as always, we commence with Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. I am Star Smart. Let's begin. Today marks exactly 3 years since La République du Cameroon's military forces committed its macabre act, killing 21 civilians in Ngarbuh, 13 children and a pregnant woman, burned down 5 homes, looted scores of other properties, and beat residents in a reprisal oppression against the community. A macabre act such as this carried out by La République du Cameroon's military with an anti-Ambazonian intention, in other words, an intention to wipe out the peace-loving peoples of Ambazonia from the surface of the earth for trying to regain their statehood and sovereignty. The truth is, for such an act as this, there are definite consequences. But the question is, did the moderates get away with what they did? Did they get any consequence at all or penalty? Or any form of punishment for taking so many lives arbitrarily? 3 years after, has any genuine course been taken to give justice to the victims? Well, in tonight's Undaunted, State of the Liberations Movement with Secretary Martin Mungwa, PhD, F.ASCE, we will take a look at this and more as we take out highlights from the most recent violations of human rights that is probably following the same justice pattern of the Ngarbuh massacre, that of Martinez Zogo. The Martinez Zogo affair, in their own words and action, no one is safe in La République du Cameroon, will be the topic of the State of Liberation Movement for tonight. Well, while you anticipate this, let's have the prime headlines usher us into the news for today.
These are the prime headlines for today. La République du Cameroon using tenants of the DDR to fight against their Ambazonia Restoration Forces is the first story for tonight. Also today, we're going to be looking at the true situation of FM No Peter. Is he dead or alive? Well, we will find out today. A look at Ngarbuh massacre, 3 years now and no justice. What is your thought? That is what we're going to be looking at today as well. And of course, aid are coming from around the world to the earthquake victims in Turkey. Good. Why is the world so interested in that and not talking about the Ambazonia war? That is also a story we will be looking at today. And UEFA responsible for chaos before Liverpool versus Real Madrid in Paris. All right, let's get the news in detail.
Who's that you go?
Calm down yourself. Calm down.
Just calm down. Calm down.
When you end up over down petrol station, no man
Wait. They ask. So they ask you say wait till they do the talk.
Make you cry. When you cry, so you create tension for people. Then calm down yourself. We know all the boys where they stand for the junction. We do with them sooner for us. Calm down yourself. Make you cry, so you create tension.
So it's as you don't get ID, can you just go
Give
home?
me talk.
Calm down yourself.
No cry.
When you cry, so you create tension. Calm down yourself. Make you cry. Calm down yourself. We know other boys than for junction. You know the mind is.
So he asked you say wait till. They ask you say wait till.
About the past, they come me, I just ignore them. Then first now first, normally you more fear.
Normally.
I don't cross now. They say me now, but they are big man. The one way we stand vote, it's my going to that super every day. I don't go meet to them now. The other man now. The other one say I go meet up patron. I go meet up patron. Patron is also my ID card. I tell you this one don't give me ID card. It was a day I tell you this 17 years. It's a do it as if for now and they do me anything. He said, at the work of a so that man no give me ID card. I say yes. The other one, they don't come on now. He go talk some motor man now. I want to see he can come now. The big man say, I follow that man. Go start to play with people. They get ID card. Then they go start. I try to beg them, but they need that. I beg them, but they doesn't man no try, but they man no even try. Man no try, but they put me and send them away. And the beg that policeman, they did that. The other one jack me now enter that some place where it's a petrol station. So now they put no get ID card. Now they go stand.
You see people there for the.
No man no be there.
So he jack you go down inside do it.
He jack me go there. He don't say my give my move my clothes. I don't say I didn't need to beg him. They say this I be mommy picky. I did picky Bobby. He said man no try her life. Yes, I did her life. Papa, I beg you need. I beg the man today. The man never done. He king me. Jing me say my is jing me back up say my stand. They move my clothes nicely me for there.
So move your blood review.
So it happened now. So for petrol station for veterinary junction here, the Africa Petroleum.
Yes, now the Africa Petroleum.
Okay.
Only one bet no go.
Okay.
Don't worry,
So they not be physical.
If they can, they
Not here.
Give me transport.
The Colonial Disarmament, Demobilization and Rehabilitation Centers created in Bamenda and Boyer are now nursing grounds for those used as a shield by the neighboring La Republic de Cameroon military to combat Amazonian restoration fighters. The reason made known to the world by La Republic de Cameroon is to accommodate combatants who have willfully dropped their weapons. Well, that these centers were to give them holistic treatment and in the end reintegrate them into the society. Well, those were just superficial reasons. What are the real reasons? That we will find out in the course of this report. But first, how are you doing, Star?
Very well, Onyi. Good evening, Amazonians. In regards to this report, the hidden agenda of these centers was to use those who integrate these centers to fight their peers still with arms. This is the more reason why La Republic du Cameroon is not opting for any other means to resolve the crisis than the military option. Atrocities perpetrated against the civilian population, like the Mondoni attack on CDC workers, are the handiwork of those at the DDR centers under the guidance of the colonial La Republique du Cameroon military. Those are the DDR centers who, by nature, have decided to live a life void of violence, are more exposed to violence and killings by the colonial La Republique du Cameroon military deployed to southern Cameroon's Amazonia.
Shutang, one of the tenants of the Bamenda DDR Center, is now nursing bullet wounds in a hospital in Yaoundé from a confrontation with ARFs in Ngokentuja County. He was leading the Colonial Republic du Cameroon military to show the hideout of FMNOPT. Now the question is this not a violation of the rights of the tenants of the DDR centers?
Well, our Republic du Cameroon is engaging ex-fighters in atrocious acts, as you've heard, in Amazonia, intending to instigate the people against the Amazonian Restoration Forces. Shatang, a well-known ex-fighter at the Bamenda DDR Center, is under intensive treatment in Yaoundé from bullet wounds he sustained as he led the Colonial La Republique du Cameroon military after FMNOPT on the 3rd of February in Ngoketunju County. Now, in an operation that lasted for 3 days from the 3rd to the 6th of February 2023, that led to the death of some elements of the Colonial La Republique du Cameroon military and 2 Amazonian Restoration Forces, Shutang, clothed in military fatigue, received his fair share of the confrontation. He has just undergone an operation in a hospital and is still in critical condition, unfortunately.
Well, a similar plan of the Colonial La Republique du Cameroon military with the assistance of tenants of the DDR Center occurred in Mondoni local government area on February 10, 2023. Ex-fighters of the Boya DDR Center were sent to kill workers of the CDC plantation. Since Amazonia has prohibited working in CDC, La Republique du Cameroon thought carrying out such an act that led to the killing of 5 workers of the CDC will turn the population against the Amazonian fighters for liberation. La Republique du Cameroon is not willing to deviate from the military option to resolve the ongoing genocide in Amazonia because she is counting on using the ex-fighters to uncover all the hideout of their Amazonian restoration forces. Well, we have this video from Shutang.
Today, 9 February 2023, we are come for hospital for see Shutang Oma, we since as they be transferred for hospital for Yaoundé. So I go for look to the situation. Now we are done there these 2 days away don't be here, and I still be need surgery. So I'll be there for follow up and see how the surgery will go. The surgery will go. So before I want to come out for day today, they said they don't do one for me and it be in good condition now. So they said they go successfully. So tomorrow I go day back. Tomorrow 10 when Thursday I go be back. Tomorrow 10 when Friday I go be back for hospital for see how the condition will continue to be, and I go to update when I back how it be. Yes, but I just want to know say Muna no say our own brother Shutang Oma it respond to treatment. Yes, and they said it will go successful.
This guy you are seeing on the screen is called Shutang Oma. He is from Bambala. He is an ex-Amazonia fighter, meaning he was an Amazonia fighter and resigned or surrendered to the government of Cameroon and was taken to DDR Center in Bamenda. Last week, we heard an information that he was shot by General Nopiti. And even we saw a video where General Nopiti fighter was talking about that if he is still alive, he should show himself. And everywhere was quiet, even CRTV quiet. Those who were behind that remained quiet. And suddenly some started talking. And that is why we are coming up with this video. When we heard about that incident, I asked myself one particular question: how come? Because I am aware that this guy is at DDR Center in Bamenda. And when you are at DDR center, there is no way, because no pity. I was asking myself, how come would no pity leave Bui division or Ngokitunja division, travel right to Bamenda, kill somebody there, and return back without any confrontation? That was not clear. I was thinking that maybe some Amazonia fighters in Bamenda do that. I did not know. Here I am today with the right story and the true story behind his shooting, behind what happened before he was shot. And he is presently receiving treatment in a hospital in Yaoundé. And that is why we are coming up with this video. DDR Center, if you don't know, it's a center that was created by President Paul Biya on the 30th of November 2018. And DDR Center means disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration. For that center was created in 3 regions in Cameroon: in the far north region, in Mora, in southwest region, that is in Buea, and the Bamenda Center in the northwest region. And it was for ex-AA combatant, that is Ambazonia fighters who were willingly surrendered to the government of Cameroon will be taken to that center, and Boko Haram's fighters who will willingly surrender to the government will be taken to that center called DDR Center. And then the purpose of that was that they will stay in that center, and then you receive some training and some medical treatment, psychological treatment, and spiritual treatment. And then when they will see fit that they are fit now, all those things they have seen, those dangerous things they have seen and involved themselves in, they will discover that, okay, they are free from all those things. Then they will be reintegrated into the society so that they will not be of any harm to anybody in the society. Because just living from the bush and going directly into the society, you have blood in your eyes, you have seen some terrible things, and you have involved yourself in some kind of terrible things. And that was the reason. And many people clap and support the government on that move. But the government was having another secondary reason behind it. The government wanted to use ex-combatant, Ambazonia fighter who will surrender in order to get to other Ambazonia fighters. And that is why they were holding on to the military option. And that is what is have been happening. We saw those who surrendered to DDR Center, they are on social media, murder. And then some who surrendered to DDR Center have even killed many people while at DDR Center than when they were in the bush as Amazonia fighters. We are seeing them every day on social media. And the government is using them. The military are using them, manipulating them, using them as toy, as tool in order to kill Amazonia fighters. And that is why they have full confidence that Amazonia, they will enter the Anglophone crisis militarily by killing all Amazonia fighters. But I'm still repeating this statement again in this video, that the government of Cameroon, the military of the Cameroon government cannot and will never kill all Amazonia fighters. And Amazonia fighters would never kill all the military. So whatever they are doing in southern Cameroon is just out of weakness, because all of them, the Amazonia fighters and the military of the Cameroon government, know that they can never win the world militarily. Let me come back to what we are talking about here, the DDR Center. This Omar, Sultan Omar, was manipulated. He was on social media talking about he is going to kill Nopiti. He is going to do this, do that. I keep on asking myself a lot of questions. I thought maybe he has not seen the video that presented at the DDR Center, what the government are doing with those guys there. They are not mentality. They are not doing anything to change their mentality. Instead, the government is using them in order to get to Amazonia. They are using them to show how Amazonia were moving, how they are moving, and the secret they are using, what sort of medicine or traditional medicine they are using, the charm they are using, and other things, routes that they are taking and where they are staying their high out. And this is the very thing that it happened to Sultan Omar. The military of the Cameroon government took Sultan Omar and went with him. That was within the 3rd and the 6th of February 2023. They took him to Ngokitunja in order for him to show where no pity is out of no pity. They went there, and that is the battle that happened in Baba 1. That is the battle that happened in Baba 1 between the military of the Cameroon government and No Pity. So they went there with Shooter Omar, and that is where Shooter Omar was shot. Somebody who surrendered willingly and said, I do not want to fight. And he left the bush without any bullet, without being killed, without lying down in the hospital for any treatment. Yet, after resigning from fighting and surrender to the government of Cameroon for his mentality to be transformed, for him to receive some cleansing, that is even when he went back to the battlefield by those who say they want to help him, reintegrate him into the society. And that is why he was shot by Amazonia fighters. In rumors are circulating that many military were killed. And military showed to us 3 Amazonia fighters were killed. They showed to us, they presented their bodies in DOP. So this is what the government have turned our center into. They failed to transform their mentality. Because to me, the videos I think concerning the DDR, they were supposed to take these children. When they resigned, when you resigned today, they were supposed to take them to the hospital for medical checkup. After finishing with their medical checkup, if they're physically or medically okay, in health, if their health is okay, they have to send them now to a psychologist. The psychologists have to work with them for some period of time. After working with them, then they send them to any spiritualist. If they are Christian, they send them to pastor. If they are Muslim, they send them to imam. If they are a traditional people, they send them to traditional doctors for spiritual cleansing. Because this guy has seen terrible things. The government abandoned all this part and started using them.
Well, there you have the in-depth analysis of this particular situation of Shooter. Well, there is also another video in that regards, the support that ex-fighters now have been also used to carry a Mundoni massacre. Well, let's watch.
Papa, Mami, Pikin, my people, the Fotiko, Likumba, and Mutengene. I don't see the videos them until the way don't happen for now. This particular time, and my heart's day una, and you see as I wear black, the thing they pain me very badly. They pain me so, and I know I be shocked. Say if you see human being will take gun, he go open up, he shoot population, he kill them, and now people the way the type of toxin they be supposed to protect we and things like that. That's all the Republic of Cameroon soldiers and they now they have exact way that way they operate. My mommy and my pa who are there for cottage hospital right now, and all on a botiko Douala road. So we don't agree. Say yes, not true. Say Ambazonian fighters them. And the whole Ambazonia, you don't want to say me CDC open until independence. Not true. But La Republic of Cameroon go use this one as an opportunity to come make sure say they use this law to commit this crime then, so that it will be easily to be tapped on Ambazonians their head, so that they will gain sympathy from the Ambazonian population, where they want to continue for this enslave them, and they will gain sympathy from the international community, so that they will borrow money, they go construct CDC, or they go do whatever they want to do today, and they show the world say everything will come back to normal. My mommy, my pa, I can't beg you say this particular act where they don't do and so. Now the Republic of Cameroon soldier, now they are work that, and they get more act than for doing in the days ahead. Una get to be careful. Any man where they hear my voice for Fako now, una get to be careful, because this act where they do and so you know go end only for Fako. La Republic military, he get plenty this kind of act them for doing to kill our people them, because they talk saying an amber doing. Don't forget say those boys them for DT are a center. Now they are work that way they do. Now one of the reasons on that why way the number run. Nambere be run now because they want to see me continue to do that kind of thing. He deny, he run. Yes, I go tell you now. You see Nasari Clovis, that boy he talk for DTR boy them, and all the other one them. Now them the work I do this exact work them. And some of those who are brother the way they inside that La Republic of Cameroon military where they talk this what talk with me and you will talk them. So this pigeon where will they talk them. Now their mission that way they get them where they do them for a land for harm our people them and for make sure say they make our people they rise against what struggle. My mommy, my pa, Ambassador get laws the way they don't put them. Yes, some of these laws then we understand. Say if you get constraints, we know say you get some loopholes them and other things then. Now even that probably always use this kind of opportunity for doing. Ambassador don't want to say me see this open until independence. Yes, that is true. Ambassador fighter, I think I assure you, Ambassador no Ambassador fighter never ever take gun so he open up. He shoot population there. It never ever happen. If you show me one, I will show you 100 situations where the Republic soldier, he don't take gun, he shoot population there, he kill them. Now so they do them. Now so they do for Ngarbuh. When they be done for Ngarbuh, they see and say they discover them with their uniform. They change and go for Kumba. They wear assorted. For sure say they be ambassador. They go always do now with this kind of clothes where no be uniform, so that you know go recognize them. Now they are work that. I beg you say make you listen. My mommy, my pa, my people, they go Tico for Cottage Hospital. I wanna share at the back una say make una listen, make una be careful. When I hear anything, make una make sure say una follow am. Because the public military don't change strategy for 20 and it continue for the make sure say it antagonize what una is the struggle. Don't forget say now that they celebrate 11 February now on the 8th or on the 9th or on the 10th. Now their strategy that they get plenty strategy the way that they use them. But all say everything they fine and they continue for punish what people they win a winner for open gun issue now. Ambassador soldier, if he, the highest thing we go do and say he go take your property, he go seize them or he go try them, then he no go shoot you with gun, he kill you. I never see a situation like that for 7 years now where ambassador soldier go shoot you with he kill them. Even if they arrest you, they go say they want to interrogate you. They go still leave go. But la Republic soldier and their agent, the way they go visit at the center, they go shoot what people and they go shoot una, they go kill them. Now they are work that and I think that way they do them. We know say that they do and whether will continue to tell una, say make una be safe, make una be calm. It's not easy. The days ahead them, it be dark. It go be a narrow path. The journey will not take them. It not be an easy one. We not be ever believe say it go easy. But at the end of the day, we go overcome. At the back una. My mami, my papa, for Tiko, for Likumba, for Mutengene, all una listen, una be calm, una be safe. Anything like Republic, stay away. I beg, stay away. Ambazonia, it fight for independence. Ambazonian soldier, it fight for independence, and he no go take gun, he shoot you like that. He go punish you, he no go take gun, he open fire. Now only the Republic military don't show you how he do all this kind of thing. I do not pick him. I be una brother. You call me Fabiano Deco. Thank you very much for watching.
Well, so much for that report there. Now, one of the most wanted of the Amazonian fighters by the Colonial Republic, the Cameroon military, Mbesia Clement, who is also known as FM No Pity, allegedly reported dead. Now, this is captured in a video and images of his body. Now, though the La Republic to Cameroon military, as time passed, announced that they killed him, which was, we think is not so true, because he came in and, we have videos debunking the Colonial La Republic to Cameroon military claim. Now, even if FM no more, the Amazonian spirit is still alive, and the freedom of Amazonia is not centered in the life of one fighter. The question we are asking is, does La Republic to Cameroon think killing No Pity is killing Amazonia restoration fighters? Of course, no. Because before FM No Pity, there were fighters, and after him, fighters will still remain.
The Colonial La Republic to Cameroon is circulating videos purporting to be the life of FM No Pity. Early life taking up arms. General No Pity is the degree of Clement Mbashi, an Amazonian who was born in Bambalang. In the late 2000s, he studied at the Cameroon College of Art, Science and Technology, Bambili, a secondary school in Mezam County. He was forced to work part-time to pay for his education. After his first failure to achieve GCE ordinary level, he relocated to Buea, where he became a donut and yogurt vendor while taking evening classes. His situation began to change as Boya became affected by the 2016/17 Anglophone protest, accompanying economic unrest. She was laid off by his employer. By this point, he also had become the father of a son. After a period of unemployment, Bashir opted to instead work as a motorbike taxi driver, a profession he practiced in the time leading up to and during the early stages of the Anglophone crisis, an open separatist rebellion in Western Cameroon.
On the 31st of July 2018, the in-house slave mayor of Boya banned all motorcycling within the city due to so-called security reasons. Bashir, who among the members of the F.ASCE driver trade union who unsuccessfully protested against this decision. Without a job and perspective, as well as anger over the negative impact of the Cameroonian state on his life, Bashir returned to Bambi and joined the liberation movement. By 2019, he served alongside the Seven Qatar, an Ambazonian fighter group associated with Ambazonian Self-Defense Council. He was not a full member of the militia. However, spending time with the Seven Qatar to learn how to operate as a guerrilla.
Now, as commander, at some point before or during 2020, he became the leader of the Bambalang Marine Forces and adopted his nom de guerre. The Bambalang Marine Forces originated and initially mainly operated in Ngoketunja, while General Nopiti gained prominence as one of the Amazonian military leaders who were most wanted by the colonial La Republic Cameroon security forces, as his militia quickly became rather successful as well as increasingly brutal to the opposing force. Under his command, the Bambalang Marines burnt down the residence of the prefect of Bali Kumbat and beheaded several La Republic Cameroon soldiers in March 2020, it was false reported that General Nopiti has been killed in combat near Bamali and so many times after that.
Well, in 2021, General Nopiti expanded his reach and increased his attacks, with his troops operating in Bambalang, Bui, Boyer, and Mason. Under his leadership, the militia carried out two successful raids into the west region of La Republic de Cameroon throughout 2021. He also became part of the Ambazonian Restoration Forces, formerly the Ambazonian Self-Defense Council, which are loyal to the interim government of Ambazonia, one of the factions involved in the Ambazonian leadership um, issues. Now, in September of that year, General Nopiti and the Bambalang Marine Forces cooperated with the Jaguars of Bamising to ambush a military convoy.
Now, the operations resulted in the death of 50 public Cameroon soldiers, the destruction of 2 armored vehicles, and the capture of several guns by the fighters. General Nopiti celebrated the success himself and fighters next to the burning vehicle. This ambush received national attention in La Republic du Cameroon and led to the La Republic du Cameroon government intensifying its manhunt for him. In the month following the Bamising attack, he called on the United Nations to take notice of the Anglophone crisis in an audio message. And he was described leader of the Amazon Revolutionary Guards, as well as of the Amazonian Restoration Forces by the Cameroon Intelligence Report.
Meanwhile, the La Republic de Cameroon military launched operations to hunt down, resulting in clashes that left several Bambalang Marine Forces members dead. La Republic de Cameroon security forces once again to have killed General Nopiti only for him to resurface in Manu. Eventually, La Republic de Cameroon security forces arrested Antoinette Konso, believed to be the pregnant girlfriend of General. The separatist militants reportedly responded by kidnapping 4-year-old Kelvin of Bambalang and demanding that Kongoso and 6 of his imprisoned followers be freed in exchange for Calvin Kongoso, and he was bailed in December 2020.
Well, as time went on, GPT made more incursions into Bui, where he found several minor separatist factions to unify into the Bui Unity Warriors, with Union Defense Forces (ADF. He was even able to convince elements of the Buyi warriors, another rebel group, to break off and join the Buyi units. In June 2022, General Nopi led an attack at Pong, a border post between Ngo and the Noun River, killing 9 Cameroonian soldiers. In the following month, Lekiaka Oliva was killed. General Nopiti, arguably the most important active Amazonian militia leader.
Well, in early August, General Nopiti led an offensive against army camps in Oku. The attack was repelled and the separatist commander was reportedly wounded in battle. Several members of his militia were killed. Barretta News went so far as to call his clash Nopiti's Waterloo. Following these events, General Nopiti went off the radar for several months. While on January 28, 2023, faced in a video where he said that 3 truck soldiers had attacked his stronghold in about 2 days prior, only to be repelled with heavy losses.
And moving on with the news for tonight, this information is trending all over the social media as regards FM News. We decided to and state that our only reason for bringing the report up is because it is making the waves on social media, as it is not yet ascertained. As it stands, the images, if the purported lifeless body of No PT doesn't exactly match the real No PT.
Now, if you have seen the lifeless body, you agree with us too that the real body and the lifeless body do not match. Now, maybe it could be him, it could not be. Perhaps the body was deformed by the killers. Our concern is, why is La Republic du Cameroon so interested, excited? Well, we promise to bring more updates as the story unfolds.
All right, now on to La Republic du Cameroon's carnage. A look at the Ngarbuh massacre. 3 years now, and where is the justice? Well, now on to this very important story on the genocide in Amazonia. We'll take a look at the very popular one. So, some know that Wikipedia has its description of it in details, the massacre.
Well, this massacre happened in Ngarbuh, Ntumbo, Ndu, Dongo Machu division, hence the tag Ngarbuh massacre. The unfortunate incident, that unknown incident to Amazonia took place on the 14th of February 2020, with the target of these murders being civilians, shooting to death over 22 civilians, although some reports has it that 35 civilians and some others 28. A macabre act carried out by La Republic du Cameroon military with an anti-Ambazonian intention. In other words, to wipe out the peace-loving people of Amazonia from the surface of the earth for trying to fight for their statehood and sovereignty.
The truth is, you cannot carry out such an act and not pay for right massacre. But the question is, what has been done about it? Let's take a look. From here to watch last year, we learned that there was a trial for 21 people, but the trial of these 21 people accused of involvement in the killings of over 22 civilians, including children and a pregnant woman, on February 14th, 2020, dragged on for way too long. The slow pace raised concerns about the justice system's efficiency and ability to deliver justice to the victims.
The lack of progress is compounded by the limited opportunity for and participation by victims' families, the lack of probative witnesses, and senior officers with command responsibility had not been arrested or charged. When the trial started, it was welcomed as a step towards justice and tackling impunity for military abuses in Cameroon's Anglophone region, said Ilagra Alogro, Human Rights Watch. But 2 years after the murder, victims and their families are still awaiting justice, while security forces have continued to commit serious human rights.
The Ngarbuh killings were one of the Cameroonian security atrocities since the crisis in the country's southern Cameroon's Amazonian region began in late 2016. Now, the government initially denied that its securities were responsible, but following international pressure, President Paul Biya established a commission March 1st, 2020, the government then admitted that its security forces bear some responsibility and announced the arrest of 2 soldiers and a gendarme in June 2020.
Well, Human Rights Watch research concluded that government forces and armed ethnic Fulani killed 21 civilians in Ngarbuh, including 13 children and a pregnant woman, burned 5 homes, looted scores of other properties, and beat residents in a reprisal operation against the community suspected of harboring separatist fighters. Ethnic Fulani living in and around Ngarbuh are also known as Mboro, mainly pastoralist. The Ngaba trial started on December 17, 2020, before the military court in Yaoundé, Cameroon's capital. That last year, it had gone through over 15 seasons. But the question is, with all these trials, what was up? Where did all these trials lead to?
The African Commission on Human and People's Rights has said that all investigations must be prompt, impartial, thorough, and transparent, and that failure transparently to take all necessary measures to investigate suspicious deaths and all killings by state agents and to identify and hold accountable individuals or groups of violation of the right to life constitutes in itself a violation by the state of that right. Now, under international standards, including the United States Protocol on the investigation of potentially unlawful death and jurisprudence from human rights bodies such as the European Court of Human Rights, for an effective investigation to be transparent, victims and their families need to have full access. Instead, family members, lawyers said that the prosecution has presented testimony people who did not witness the killings and whose testimony is at odds with witness accounts provided during preliminary investigation, as if anyone was dishonesty or justice from a banana republic.
Lawyers for the victims also said that the judge in charge of this also sits on the Court of Appeals, to which complaints about the trial requests for review will be referred. If the parties are not satisfied with the judgment and the case is referred to the appeals court, the review will be carried out by the judge, said Barrister Richard Tamfu, one of the family members' lawyers. Now, this is a blatant violation of the right to appeal to an impartial tribunal, as set out in the principles and on the rights to a fair trial and legal assistance in Africa. Judicial impartiality is compromised if it sits as a member of an appeal tribunal in a case which he or she decided or participated in a lower judicial body.
Well, as the trial went on, Cameroonian security forces continued to commit serious crimes even till today in the Anglophone regions, uttering a cloud of impunity that has fueled the crisis in Cameroon's Anglophone regions for the past 5 years. Now, armed separatist groups have also committed abuse, others using the opportunity to do so, including killings, kidnappings, torture, and wax on education. Well, this highlights the urgent need for investigations that meets international standards into serious abuses, which has not been yet brought.
Well, Allegros said the last for the killings of in Ngarbuh and the reoccurring military abuses are avoidable consequences of the failure to ensure effective investigations and prosecutions. Cameroonian authorities should rein in their security forces, ensure end to abuses, and guarantee that those most responsible for the Ngarbuh killings, as well as those serious abuses, are held to account in fair and effective trials. Another very vital question to look at is what justice has been brought now. Even with all the national involvement, where are we?
We the people, ABC Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation, the voice of the voiceless of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa with untold stories, Africa's best.
Right, and let's look at the issue, the earthquake in Turkey. Let's see how far they have come. Well, UK have teamed up with corporate giants to send more than 350 worth of emergency flights to Turkey following the earthquake. The emergency aircraft departed from London Heathrow for Andana on Tuesday, carrying clothes, blankets, and almost a ton of infant milk powder. Watford-based humanitarian aid charity Goods for Good worked with partners Megan David Andom UK and the Humanitarian Resources International to secure an aircraft from Virgin Atlantic.
The death toll from the magnitude 8 and 7.5 9 hours apart on February in southern Turkey and northern Syria has passed 35,000. Despite the Disasters Emergency Committee, DEC, appealing 74 million pounds in donations, doctors have said more trauma kits, antibiotics, and pain reliefs are desperately needed to treat those with injuries. Although charities are beginning to receive the green light to get goods out to Turkey, surgery, they need supplies such as orthopedic screws and needles, anesthetics, and antibiotics.
Well, the DEC said also a shortage of skilled medical professionals trained in plastic and reconstructive surgery, neurosurgery, and hand surgery, and kidney created a spec in need for dialysis machines and kidney specialists. Well, this got us thinking. While the world is paying critical attention to the victims of the earthquake, we sympathize with them, but then the world needs to remember Amazonia as well.
We the people, ABC Amber TV, Amazonia Broadcast Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Amazonia, connecting the world from Africa with untold stories, because best. We the people, ABC Amber TV, Amazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Amazonia, connecting the world from Africa with untold stories, Africa's best.
All right, and in sports, UEFA bears responsibility for the chaotic scenes that almost led to disaster before last year's Champions League final between Liverpool and Real Madrid. Now, this is what the newsman had to say.
Well, fans were penned in and tear-gassed outside Paris's Stade de France. It was delayed by 36. We'll have Gabelesen tell us more.
World sports, football, final. UEFA responsible for chaos before Liverpool versus Real Madrid in Paris. UEFA bears primary responsibility for the chaotic scenes that almost led to disaster before last year's Champions League final between Liverpool and Real Madrid. Independent report. Fans were penned in and tear-gassed outside Paris' Stade de France as kickoff was delayed by 36 minutes. In Israel, no one lost their life. Report. UEFA commissioned after the 28 May final. UEFA and French authorities initially blamed ticketless fans for the events. The report says there is no evidence to support sensible claims. The panel has concluded that UEFA, as event bears responsibility, which led to disaster, said the report. All the stakeholders in the panel have agreed that this situation was a near miss, a term used when an event almost turns into a fatality catastrophe. While it said there was contributory fault from other bodies, particularly French police and the French Football Federation, the European governing body UEFA, UEFA should have monitoring and oversight role of security to ensure it all worked. It self-evidently did not. The report Athletics Peter Bowl has provisional doping ban for EPO lifted after sample. Commonwealth Games 800-meter medalist Peter Bowl has had his provisional suspension for doping lifted after his B sample produced a result to his A sample. The Australian 28 returned adverse finding for erythropoietin EPO at an out-of-competition test in October. He requested his B sample tested, which returned an atypical finding, but Sport Integrity Australia says this is not the same as a negative result and will continue its investigation. Sport Integrity Australia will, as part of its investigation, proceed to consider whether doping rule violations have been committed. The anti-doping watchdog said possibly provide a time frame at this point. Bowl, who finished fourth at the Tokyo Olympics in 2021 and won Commonwealth silver in Birmingham, has always protested he's innocent. I was hopeful the process would exonerate me, he said. This morning, I am relieved to report that it did. The relief I am feeling is hard to describe. To say it one more time, I am innocent and have not taken this I was accused. I have never in my life purchased, administered, or used synthetic EPO or any other prohibited substance, and never will. EPO increases red blood cell mass, allowing the body to transport more to muscles and increase stamina performance. Under the World Doping Agency water code, Bowl faces a ban of up to 4 years if found guilty. Top Iran chess player exiled using headscarf. When one of the world's most promising chess players, 25-year-old Sarah Khadem, decided to play at an international tournament without her headscarf in solidarity with the protest movement in Iran, she warning would be the worst that would happen to her. Instead, she can return to Iran. There are arrest papers waiting for her, and she now lives in exile in southern Spain with her husband and one-year-old son. She and her family asked the BBC not to reveal her precise location. Their worry is that there may be repercussions even thousands of miles away from Iran. Women in Iran are required to wear headscarves in public, even when abroad. But a few are choosing not to, in support of the women and girls spearheading the protest inside the country following the death in custody of 22-year-old Mahsa Amini in September. One of them, the climber Elnaz Rekabi, was forced to recant, and it is unclear the situation is now that she is back in Iran. Sarah Khadem said there was a slow evolution of her decision to play in a tournament in Kazakhstan in December last year with headscarf. The contestants only wore them in front of the cameras, and she felt that was hypocritical. Given the sacrifices being made by the women and girls on the street of Iran, some of them risking their lives, it was the least to do, she said. Had she considered joining the demonstrators herself? Yes, of course, she replied, but her young son Sam held her back. She said, I have responsibilities to, and I thought perhaps I could use my influence in other ways. Adam has been playing chess competitively since she was about 8 years old. This is not the first time she has fallen of the Islamic Republic strict codes of behavior. In 2020, a Ukrainian plane which took off from Tehran was shot down by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, killing 170 people. It was 3 days before the authorities admitted their error. Ms. Khadem said on social media she was forced to sign a confession saying she did not mean anything political by her post. The next time she went to the airport, her passport was confiscated. She thought her career was over. Now that her life has changed utterly, does she have any regrets? Without hesitation, she said, no. I miss my family, but I would not say I regret the decision. I still represent Iran, and I am Iranian, and the people of Iran still see me as Iranian. It struck me that she does not regard herself as political, though she acknowledges that so much in Iran is political. She said, I'm not an activist, and I don't do messages for people risking so much. The people who are protesting in the streets are inspiring to me and so many others. She has been able because of the golden visa rule, which allows anyone who buys a property valued at €500,000 to gain residency. Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez invited Sarah Khadem to meet him. The day turned out to be bittersweet. She And in my own country, where you have achieved lots of success, you get arrest papers, reporting for daunted news.
All right, and it's time for us to get into the crux of the matter for today. And we are in time to have the liberation with Secretary Martin F.ASCE. And for today, he will the topic, the Martinez Zogo affair, words and action. No one is safe in La Republic du Cameroon. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure that are ready to welcome their Secretary for Communication and IT, Martin Mungwa, PhD.
Good day, Ambazonians, and welcome to today's presentation, February 14th, 2023. A very sad day in Ambazonia. We are very conscious of what is happening on our land, and it is our wish that come February 14th, the next year, we should be in freedom. Today's topic is the Martinez Zogo affair. In their own words and actions, no one is safe in La République du Cameroon. Dear Ambazonians and the international community, once again, on behalf of the interim government, we would like to extend a 21-gun salute to our great Ambazonia restoration forces in the home front for their acts of bravery and high sacrifices to earn freedom for the indigenous people of the former British Southern Cameroons under military occupation by French Cameroon and her protege France and other conspirators since October 1st, 1961. We praise you, the ARFs, for upholding and protecting the interim constitution of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. We greatly honor those who are putting their precious lives on the line to protect Ambazonians from La République du Cameroon state-orchestrated terrorism. February 11th, 2023 will go down in history as the turning point in this revolution, as Ambazonians collectively and decisively demonstrated to the world that we are a separate people with one government and one elected leader, Dr. Samuel Ikomesaku, and under the Almighty God. Fellow Ambazonians, over the past couple of weeks, we have been witnessing the sustained outcry across the world following the foul murder of Martinez Zogo, a Yaoundé-based La République du Cameroon investigative journalist. At the outset, let me say that this interim government has monitored developments regarding this murder, not because there was something new. In fact, we all know that torture and gruesome murder of innocent people, especially Ambazonians, and anyone who stands for freedom and justice are the main tool in the arsenal of La République du Cameroon. Zogo's family can now attest to the daily predicament of thousands of Ambazonians. What is new here is that the torture and murder of Zogo shows once again that La République du Cameroon and Ambazonia are two separate countries. That is the point of our interest. Why? No such thing is imaginable in Ambazonia. Ambazonia remains a beacon of democracy, the one which held the first democratic general elections in post-colonial Africa, which the incumbent lost, conceded, and peacefully handed power to its opponent. Such a thing is unimaginable in La République du Cameroon in the 21st century. An opponent is met all of the time with death of some kind. La République's creed can easily be summarized as torture, murder, plundering, corruption, and wanton destruction. Ambazonia and La République du Cameroon are two separate countries. Back to the story. We know Mr. Zogo was an investigative journalist and director of Amplitude FM radio station, where he hosted a show known as Embouteillage or Traffic Jam, in which he initially peddled pro-beer propaganda as a poster child of the regime. But at some point, he became a critic, denouncing embezzlement of billions of francs CFA by top pillars of the beer regime from the taxpayers, including a certain Jean-Pierre Amogo Belinga, a former prison mate of Atanganji in Kondenge. Critics describe Mr. Belinga as a fairman, criminal, thief, and fraudster turned billionaire. He is the cumulative owner of L'Anecdote newspaper and the Tribal Vision Cat TV outlet, which Amazonians vividly recall has been calling for a total annihilation, like the Radio Télévision Libre, the Mille Collines during the Rwanda genocide, as well as Vision Finance SA, a banking establishment believed to be funded mostly with embezzled billions of CFA francs earned from La République's plunder of Ambazonia's resources. As the tragic story unfolds last month, noticing that he was being followed, Zogo alerted friends and family and ultimately drove to a gendarmerie post, trying to seek help, but was turned away tragically. His attackers thus easily caught up with him and abducted him, and on January the 23rd, his mutilated remains were found in a dusty field in the Soa neighborhood of Yaoundé, believed to be one of the mass grave sites where the brutal colonial regime of La République du Cameroun dumped some of our people, also assassinated by them. On February 2nd, following the outcry and protest by La République du Cameroun citizens, especially in Europe, the Biya regime issued a communique in which it was announced that following the haute instruction, supreme instructions of Mr. Biya, a joint police and gendarmerie investigation into the murder of Zogo was ordered. Those arrested so far include the alleged mastermind, Amogo Belinga, whom Zogo has been exposing, and Mr. Leopold Maxime Eko, who heads Cameroon's dreaded General Directorate for External Intelligence, or known as in the French acronym as GGRA, where several Amazonians have been languishing in the hands of the colonial regime of La République du Cameroun. His wife, Endel Beth, was also arrested and interrogated. According to Reporters Without Borders and other concordant media reports, several DGRE personnel have been arrested in connection with the assassination of Zogo, including its Director of Operations, Lieutenant Colonel Justin Ndanwe, who in his deposition confessed that he led Zogo's kidnapping, horrific torture, and murder. Several persons close to Mr. Mogu Belinga have been arrested, including Mr. Bruno Bijan, the Director General of his Anecdote Media, and one of his fathers-in-law, Raymond Thomas Etundi Nsoy, a retired colonel and former commander of the Presidential Guard. La République du Cameroun activists are now calling for the arrest of Mr. Laurent Esso, Minister of Justice and Keeper of the Seals, one of the closest allies of Mr. Biya, who has been cited by those arrested as having ordered Zogo's assassination to avoid a repeat of another journalist who was tortured and left for dead, but miraculously survived. In addition, a second journalist, Jean-Jacques Ola Bebe, was also found dead in Yaoundé on January 2nd. So there goes the colonial regime of La République du Cameroun, which, according to Reporters Without Borders, is one of the continent's most dangerous countries for journalists who operate in a hostile and precarious environment. Fellow Ambazonians, we recall what happened to one of our own, the late Samuel Wazizi, a photojournalist and host who worked at Chilean Media Television, CMTV, in Boya. He He was arrested on August 2nd, 2019 in Boya, accused of criticizing La République du Cameroon's handling of our struggle. He was held incommunicado for some 20 months and eventually died in custody. Neither his family nor lawyers had access to him. His remains were not even returned to the family to be laid to eternal rest. To this day, dear Amazonians, there has been no justice. No one was held accountable, despite calls for justice repeated by various UN bodies, the Committee to Protect Journalists, and other international organizations. Dear Amazonians, look at the stark difference between the killing of Zogo and Wazizi. Within days of Zogo's killing, the most powerful man in Cameroon's intelligence arsenal and 20 others are in detention and now confessing. In Wazizi's case, nothing significant has happened since 2020. His family was simply left with nothing and not even the body for proper burial and closure. Amazonians, what this says is anyone's guess, and this leads to a number of explanations. First, Zogo is getting justice because he was a citizen of La République du Cameroon. Wazizi and the thousands of Ambazonians killed by the same brutal colonial regime of La République got nothing. It clearly did not matter to anyone. They did not even care to hand his body to the family, as if to say his killing was not bad enough. The family is now suffering the perpetual anguish of not knowing what happened to him. In the same vein, it is clear that Baby Martha, Sam Sawyer, Mami Happy, and the tens of hundreds of Ambazonians murdered by the colonial regime will only get justice through the total independence and sovereignty of Amazonia, which they paid for with the ultimate sacrifice. Second, a very important question now begs for an answer. Why any Ambazonian is still being held in La République du Cameroon's dungeons, including the murderous DGRA, after both his head, Mr. Leopold Maxim Eko, and Director of Operations, Lieutenant Colonel Justin Danwe, are now confessing to the killing of not just Zogo, but hundreds of people. From a legal perspective, is there an iota of legitimacy in such an institution and regime? Is there any credibility in an institution tarnished by such incident? If there is any such thing as justice, shouldn't the frivolous charges against our people in that murderous institution simply be dropped and compensation accorded them for wrongful detention and torture? The international community must now see the DGRA and the colonial murderous regime of La République du Cameroon for what they are: a murderous, inhuman machine meting out oppression, torture, and certain death to all those who stand for freedom for Ambazonia, period. This is what Ambazonians have been saying for 61 years and counting. Keep in mind that Wazizi was killed for simply criticizing La République du Cameroon's handling of our struggle, whereas Zogo was killed for exposing the wanton corruption and embezzlement of billions of CFA francs, mostly money earned from the plundering of Ambazonian resources by corrupt Betty Bull officials and their allies trying to amass wealth to perpetrate colonial rule over Ambazonia, while our people languish in poverty and deprivation at home and in exile. That is the heart of the issue. They killed and silenced most of our own and have now turned to their own. Zogo's killing, just like Wazizi's, shows that they will stop at nothing, except, of course, our ARFs. If the international community cannot see the urgency for the total liberation and full independence of Ambazonia from the murderous oppression of that regime, what else will it take? Dear Ambazonians, the colonial regime is now telling our story in their own words at the highest level. If they could do what they did to Zogo, a so-called Ekan Beti and poster child of the Biya colonial regime, what they are doing to our people in their dungeons is anyone's guess. The murder of Zogo opens a tiny peek into the dark reign of terror, which has maimed, burned, tortured, killed Ambazonians, and wreaked a scourge earth policy, a scorched earth policy to reduce us to rubble, or until our restoration fighters say not enough is enough. Dear Amazonians, yes, one hoped for that after the 1994 Rwanda genocide, the international community would read the clear writing on the wall. Now that La République du Cameroon is telling our story in their own words. But that is only hope. We cannot just hope. What Zogo's killing tells us, especially to our fellow brothers and sisters who think they are safe as nebulous blacklegs and errand boys of La République du Cameroon, or even as bystanders of the struggle, is that no one is safe in this reign of terror by the murderous regime of La République du Cameroon. No one. No. Short live the revolution. Long live the Federal Republic of Amazonia. Thank you, and over to you.
All right. All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Mungwa there. I mean, this killing of Martinez Zogo is a very sad one, and we here, all undaunted, we have followed these reports clearly, and we brought every bit of this particular murder case to you on a regular basis. And here it is today. Now, Dr. Mungwa, you made a very strong sentence, and it really caught my attention when you said, if the international community cannot see the urgency for the total liberation and full independence of Amazonia from the murderous oppression of that regime, what else will it take? The question is, what else would it take? This evening, as well, we reported that, across the world, just the recent earthquake in Turkey and some part of Syria, we have seen international communities responding as fast as possible, 48 hours, even after 48 hours up until now, they are responding, sending arms, sending medications, looking for medical practitioners and all of that. And here we are still calling on them. Your question is, what else will it take? And I'm asking you, if it doesn't take anything, what else are we going to do? What else are you thinking of that we can do? Because we have seen them come get succor to other countries. We have seen it. We saw it happen in Ukraine and Russia. We are seeing it right now. Although the situations, especially with the latest earthquake, might not be the same thing, but the question there is that they are sending arms, they are sending succor. We also need succor. We also need help. We also need their attention. What else will it take? I want to really hear from you.
Thank you for that question, and I appreciate the fact that you've been able to pinpoint that particular statement I made in this, we made in this write-up. What else will it take? As we mentioned earlier, I think in the past couple of presentations, especially what the president talked about during the town hall and actually during the press conference, we have to go diplomatically, and we have two fronts to attack here. We have to go diplomatic. We have to make sure that we go for recognition. We go for recognition. And I can tell you that the machine is already on the way for that. We are working at the diplomatic front to make sure that we can get recognition. And as you all know, in every fight of this nature, every strategic thinking, you aim higher than your reach. So we are going for the highest process in order to gain recognition. And the second part of this, we talked about, we're going diplomatic as well as the ARFs. I mean, we have streamlined the way the ARFs are trained, the way they approach any self-defense operation. And it is very critical now that I'm sure many Amazonians have actually seen it, the way that the ARFs are operating in the field is not like in the past. And I don't want to go to details to show the difference between the two approaches. That is very important. So you have to also understand. Let me go back even to La République du Cameroon. One of the the stability I can talk about, the Anglophones who are actually in that government, the enablers, they fail to understand that the only reason why some of them are in government is because of the strength of the ARFs. If the ARFs have been defeated, they will all be kicked out of government. You can see that the moment that La République has no use for you, they kick you out. When Field Marshal of FMA of Libelem died, what happened? They sacked Paul Njokan Tasson from whatever position he held. Now nobody hears about him. But he was the one who was going around beating his chest and saying, let FM Field Marshal should come and surrender to him. Now that they use his people, paid them 24 million CFA francs, and they were able to go and kill the FM of Libelem. Where is Tasson today? Tasson is of no value to anybody. And the same goes to Chris Anu and the others and the enablers. This is the message that I want to make Amazonians understand. If you are working for La République du Cameroon, thinking that by killing your own people, you are going to rise in that structure or in that regime or in that junta, you are actually deceiving yourself. It's like crossing the bridge and breaking the bridge behind you. You will not go back. So long as the ARFs are strong, so long as we are strong, I would advise all those working for La République government that it is time for you to get out. Because the moment, if they ever feel that they have any strength of their own, you will be the first to go. So it is a clarion call to all these enablers to let them know the ARFs will be getting stronger and stronger. And there will become a time when they realize that you are of no value to anybody and you will be kicked out and you will probably be killed. And we all see what is happening. After the Canadian debacle, look at what is happening. There are now rumors that Diongote wants to resign and so on and so forth. Why is it so? Because whatever they ask him to do has not worked. So we are going to pursue diplomatically. We are going to pursue militarily. And these two fronts, I can assure you that we are looking through our lessons learned and we are making sure that our strategy is updated and we are making sure that we analyze and recognize the weaknesses of La République du Cameroon. And we can assure you that in the months to come, you are going to see lots of events happening. And at least you've seen some of them in the past, as reported by ABC and elsewhere. So that's the plan we have for you. Over to you.
Okay, all right. Dr. Martin Mungwa, in regards to the Ngarbuh massacre, because today is a very peculiar date, not just 11 February. Today, particularly talking about the Ngarbuh massacre, it makes it 3 years now since then, but I haven't gotten any updates or any leads to the reactions of the international community that was fully aware of this, because even the European Union expressed their concerns over the ongoing crisis in the Cameroon. The question is this all they can do, or is there something stopping them from serving justice to the peoples of Ambazonia? Because they are fully aware of what's going on. At least the case of the Ngarbuh massacre was a very, very obvious one and clear to everybody. The question is, why haven't they done anything to set out justice to Ambazonians?
Oh, thank you. That's also a very good question. And I can understand the anguish. I can understand the concerns of all of us. But let's be realistic. In any war of this nature, things kick into motion when we get to the end. If you look at Rwanda, you discover that even up to today, they're still pursuing those who were the backbone of the genocide in Rwanda. So don't be discouraged. I am very certain that the international community will come to this case. The moment that the dust settles, they will get into action. You can see the same thing is happening elsewhere. I don't want to be, calling the name of other conflicts around the world. It's just a matter of strategy that for it to be very effective, the dust must settle, and very soon the dust will settle on our fight, and that's when they'll kick into action, and they'll be able to bring all these people to justice. So I want to inform Ambazonians that you should not be worried at all. These people will be brought to justice. If La République du Cameroon cannot do its job, somebody will do it for them. That I can assure you. Over to you.
All right, Dr. Mungwa. Now, let me just take you a bit back to your report of this evening before we move to the Ngarbuh massacre. Still talking about Martinez Zogo's killing, is it that the journalists practicing in La République du Cameroun do not have freedom of speech, or they do not have freedom of expression? Or is it that they probably have freedom of speech and expression, but then their security is not guaranteed? If that is the situation, or if that is the case, then is it also going to be said that the President Paul Biya's led administration is not ready for constructive criticism? Because that's what we see Martinez Zogo was doing. I don't know if you would have ideas to this question I'm asking.
Well, that is left to La République du Cameroun citizens. Remember, there's a popular saying that you have the government that you deserve. I'm not going to comment on that. We have been fighting for that same reason, that we don't agree with the policies of La République du Cameroun, the fact that they want to colonize us. We said no, which ultimately means that the government that we have in Ambazonia is the government we deserve, because we're fighting for it. Look, La République du Cameroun citizens have to rise up and make sure that their politicians are accountable to them. It is not our fight to do that. So I don't know how best I can answer your question, but all I can say is that it's left to the citizens of La République du Cameroun. Over to you.
Actually, also tonight we gave a very interesting report that has caught a lot of people's attention everywhere, even on social media. The DDR, the fact that the disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration stations have been used. Now they're now using the people who surrender their weapons and are in this particular capacities. They're now using them to either fish out Ambazonians or directly Ambazonian restoration fighters, or directly even go at war with them. They're now using them as their tools, opposing what they actually said they were going to use the DDR centers for. And now the question is, in this kind of scenario, because it's going to cause either way a backlash for those former Ambazonian restoration fighters or former liberation fighters, or the Ambazonian restoration fighters, since they already have a lot of information as to a lot of things about the Ambazonian restoration forces. So what do you think the ARF should do about this, and what can the interim government do about this as well?
Well, what the DDR is doing is not new. They have practiced this with the enablers and some of the pseudo so-called Amazonian fighters. You have several cases here in the past, which I can let you know this to prove to you that this is not new. You had Cho Ayaba. He promised to cut the heads of chiefs in a few days. A guy was beheaded in Bafut. You have Ayaba, Cho Ayaba, who signed an alliance with Namdi Kanu. And a few days after, our refugees were being hunted since then. Again, Cho Ayaba massacred 11 fighters in Batibo in 2018. And when questioned, he said no one dares the ADF and go free. Cho Ayaba invited fighters in Batibo in 2022, codenaming it Operation Sunshine, which was rather an invitation for fighters to be liquidated. In the end, there wasn't any operation, but the killing of a dozen of Ambazonian fighters, mostly from Bui County. You also have Cho Ayaba, who is notorious for kidnapping all through the duration of his struggle. That is why, since the auctioning of the Ivomba to La République du Cameroun in 2018, the ADF has never fought any battles against La République du Cameroun. And the list goes on and on. And we have documented evidence that is an exchange of arm and strategy between Bir and Choyaba. So all I'm trying to tell you is that this is not new. In fact, we have done extremely well in this process because our soldiers, they investigate a lot of enablers, a lot of blacklegs, and they arrest them. So this is not, we're aware of that. I mean, we can see the perspective from the gentleman who presented the report. I am not surprised. And the ARF is not surprised. They are well aware of that. So if it were just for that particular incident alone, you think maybe by now the ARFs would have been defeated. No. This is a very tough job for the ARFs. And we have very, very qualified soldiers who understand the technique that La République du Cameroon is using. It is now that it's come to the open and we'll be able to connect the dots. But we knew that all along. This gentleman, Shooter, I don't know what the other name is. And he came on air. I mean, he made it very clear to the world that he was from the DDR. And there have been several cases where they have all come out to make the same, how do I put it, cases that they were going to kill our soldiers. And we know that. We absolutely know that. But that tells you the nature of that regime, La République du Cameroon. So it also is an indication to all those who think that they can go and surrender to La République du Cameroon and will be treated as human beings. I cannot tell each and every one of them that never will La République du Cameroon believe in them. They will be there, they will work for La République du Cameroon, but ultimately they will be destroyed, they will be liquidated. And they have to know it now. And whatever they are going to do in the name of trying to identify ARFs, they'll be surprised that they will not succeed. Over to you.
All right, particularly on your topic for tonight, this is another violation of human rights, and it's not something new with La République, as it's seen time and time again. Their military severally carrying out macabre act. Well, your topic particularly, I'd like to know, could you give us more details why you thought this was particularly important and why you had to bring it to Amazonians' ears?
I mean, you can see, thank you again. I mean, you can see the outcry from La République du Cameroon, both citizens and activists. It really tells you that the La République du Cameroon literally has gone overboard. And not only is the international community very upset and astonished at the way this country operates, but even its own citizens have now realized that nobody is safe. Nobody is safe. And if nobody is safe in La République du Cameroon, what about Amazonia? That is the fundamental question that we have to ask. And if you have institutions of state that cannot even follow the law, how does that mean? How does that portray itself to the world? It means that whatever they are carrying out on Amazonia is actually legitimate, because even the system itself is corrupt. The entire structure is corrupt. So, and if you've been listening to some of the write-ups or some of the video feed from La République du Cameroon, they actually openly say that BIA deliberately creates parallel structures, networks within the government. So the since he is fiscally unfit to address or attack or to be able to bring them to justice, they simply put the networks against each other and they fight until when he discovers who is the weakest, then he comes and finishes them. That is exactly what he's doing at this point. And that is the same technique that he has used in Amazonia, trying to create fragments within the ARFs, or trying to create fragments within the interim government, with the idea that these people will start fighting against each other while he sits and watches. And at the end of the day, when everybody is weak, that's when he comes in to give the final blow. But you realize that the interim government has been extremely intelligent, because we know the history of this man. We know the history of his regime. We have lived through his regime. We know how he operates. So when he started, inviting us to go to Canada, we knew exactly what the plan was. Now, if you listen to the media report, they say most of the Ambazonian fighting groups. What do you mean by most? Just because 4 people show up or 6 people show up, 2 of them signing 3 signatures each? To him, it's about the number of leaders, not about who is actually in control at the home front. We want to tell the world that the interim government is in control of the ARFs. We are in control of the ground forces, and the reasons and the evidence is there for all to see. When we told the Amazonians that they should stay at home on the 10th and 11th, they listened. When Cho Ayaba and others said there should be an end to ghost towns, what happened? The reverse happened, is accentuated. So that is the proof that we are in control. It is not about the number of leaders. We are answerable to Amazonians. We are answerable to more than 95% of Amazonians. So if Biya thinks that his logic is about the number of Amazonian separatists to talk to, then I think he's lost the point. It's about those who are in control of the ground forces, because for 100 years, if he thinks that he has to depend on the number of leaders and not the ones that are in control of the ground troops, then he's not going to get his objective. I think that's the point I want to drive across. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Mungwa. Now, you did when you were talking, you did mention Cho Ayaba, and I remembered vividly that the president, in one of his speeches, extended an olive branch to some of these victims, of either the coup plotters, Cho Ayaba, the D. How viable is this particular strategy? When you talk about strategies, how viable is this?
It is very viable, and it's actually working very well. What we have asked those following Cho Ayaba and others, that they should simply come home. And what does that mean? They should just join their LGAs and counties and so on and so forth and start working from there. It is not as if we are trying to exchange our leaders or mix them up. No. The position of the interim government is clear, that all the followers of these so-called phantom leaders, they should just stay away from them and join the interim government. And you join at the level of your LGA. And we've seen several resignations in the past. In fact, some are just silently leaving and coming to join the interim government. So that's the point. And they have come to realize that all those who went to Canada were actually fake. They came back full of jubilation. I remember I saw Professor Anyangwe coming on television and telling every Ambazonian that we now have a plan. We are going to negotiate for our independence. And yet, if you read some of the recent articles about the meeting in Canada, it is clearly stated in there that the Biya regime did not want to hear anything that relates to Amazonia. So what were they going there to sign? I don't know. Nobody has seen the document. If you had signed a document for our independence, where is it? Now it's 2 months, 3 months, nobody has seen the document. Is this not what the interim government has been saying since we took Dr. Sako was elected as president of the interim government? We have to make a clear agenda. That agenda must be known, must be accepted by the Amazonian people, because we represent them. We don't represent ourselves. As I said in the past, I am never going to go there to represent Martin Mungwa. I'm never going there to represent Ngogitunja. It's about we have to fight for the entire country. It's the entire country, and everybody must know what the agenda is. We have warned everybody against secret talks. We told them the Canada monologue, that secret meeting in Canada, was going to lead them to nowhere. Now we have been vindicated. You have seen what happens in a secret secret talk or secret meeting. People can change whatever they discuss, and there's no proof that to show that it had been changed. And that's why we want everything to come to the open so that Ambazonians understand what is on the agenda. I hope that is clear. Over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Martin Mungwa. Well, another interesting date apart from today, which is the 14th February, that is supposed to be a day of love, but it turned out to be a day of massacre for the people of Ngarbuh. Another peculiar date is 11th of February, the purported Youth Day, or Plebiscite Day, as La Republic will call it. Well, the Department of Education and Strategic Collaboration, under the mandate of the president, organized a town hall during this day that was very sensitizing with the initiative, and with that initiative and many others we know. Would you say that the interim government is making advancement in her efforts to internationalize and mobilize resources to prosecute this movement?
Thank you. It's a combination of all that. I was very happy during the town hall as to the manner in which the president simplified some of the notions, or some of the words that are being peddled all over the place regarding what we have to do and what we should be expecting. And in particular, drawing a clear distinction between the Swiss negotiation and the Canada monologue. And thanks to one of the comrades, I actually picked up this summary from her website. It made it very clear, and I'm going to read through the difference between the Swiss-led process and the Cameroon-led Canada monologue. Remember, the Canada monologue was led by La République du Cameroon. It was a singular assignment headed by La République du Cameroon. In the Swiss-led process, the emblem, which means that if we're sitting at the table, what are we going to show, or to show the world that we are Ambazonians? We had two flags and two anthems, which means that the anthem of Ambazonia will be sung and the anthem of La République du Cameroon. Also, you are going to see two flags. You are going to see the flag of La République du Cameroon, and you are going to see our blue and white and dove. So that is a symbol. It shows that these are two countries actually negotiating. But for the Cameroon-led Canada monologue, it was just one flag and one anthem. In fact, they banned them from even singing the Ambazonian national anthem, which means that they were not recognized as Ambazonians. They were part of La République du Cameroon. The second is the organizers. Who organized the Swiss-led process? The Swiss-led process was organized by the international community. Okay, it was done by the international community. However, the Canadian, the Cameroon-led Canada monologue was organized by La République du Cameroon. That was a singular affair, as far as organization was concerned. When you talk about the topic of discussion, in the Swiss-led process, the topic was talk about Southern Cameroons and Ambazonia, the root causes and the process to separate us permanently. Okay, split La République du Cameroon and Ambazonia will part ways in the Swiss-led process. But what did the Cameroon-led Canada dialogue about? It was about talk about northwest, southwest regions of Cameroon. What is that? Does that even is it close to the root causes? Of course not. Of course not. And then you talk about the sponsors. The sponsor, it was sponsored by Switzerland and Canada. But the Cameroon-led Canada monologue was sponsored by the Prime Minister's office in La République du Cameroon. And then talk about endorsements. Who endorsed the Swiss-led process? It was endorsed by Canada, the United States, Germany, Britain, and the EU. And the Cameroon-led Canada dialogue or monologue, was actually endorsed by Canada alone. To be specific, by Quebec, okay? A lot of pressure was coming from Quebec. That is French Canada. So people should know this. And we know that too. So this is a summary of what Dr. Sako was able to present during the last town hall. As from an educational perspective, I think he educated Ambazonians as to what is at stake. What is at stake? That we have to understand. So when people keep talking about, oh, the Canada monologue is something that we can revive and go back to it, we are shooting ourselves in the foot. We cannot accept, and I made this very clear, we cannot accept going to meet with La République du Cameroon in a secret meeting. We can't do that. The Swiss-led process is the only pathway to our sovereignty. Thank you. Over to you.
All right, so let's get your idea. Now that the La République du Cameroon's real agenda from current experiences and, feedback has undoubtedly been uncovered, what lessons do you think other Ambazonian resources should draw from these? And how is their interim government themselves to provide rapid intervention to help their victims?
Well, I mean, I think, as I mentioned in my presentation today, that 11 February will go down in history as a turning point in this revolution, as Ambazonians collectively and decisively demonstrated to the world that we are a separate people. This is key. And this is what we have been fighting for quite a while. Ever since Chris Ano and the other enablers tried to derail this movement a year ago, trying to break us into so many pieces that will allow La République du Cameroon to come in and destroy us. You see, we succeeded and they failed. And this, we are actually in a position of strength. And the interim government will take advantage of the political capital moving forward. I am not here to tell you exactly what we have to do, but there's actually something on the way as we speak. We are very happy with the results of the 11th February, how the entire Ambazonia was grounded. It means that they take orders on it from the interim government. When we ask them to do something, they will do it because they know that we are the true representatives of the people. We are the voice of the people, and that is very important. And we have to use that opportunity, at least to show to the international community that from empirical data, it proves that we are in control. Nobody, La République du Cameroon cannot go out there and say we are in control of Ambazonia. It's impossible. Because if that were the case, they would say, okay, we said no ghost towns, and of course, and there will be no ghost towns. But it hasn't worked. So we are in control, and we are taking advantage of this. And we are preparing, working on our strategies to factor in this very important piece of information. That's all I can say for now. It is important for us. And we are very, very thankful to all the Ambazonians, the ARFs, who have been listening to our call and making sure that they take the instructions that we send out on a monthly or weekly basis, that they listen to the audios that we send out, that they listen to the videos that we send out, because it is very crucial that whatever happens in the future, we are all working as one man. We have to be united. And I can see that unity as far as what we saw on the 11th of February. That unity is there. Thank you. Over to you.
All right, Dr. Martin Mungwa, in that light, could you tell Ambazonians anything, your last remarks to them in regards to this whole issue, especially concerning the DDR, staying safe, basically? Could you give Ambazonians your last remark for tonight?
Yes, thank you. Fellow Ambazonians, we have reached a critical point in this struggle. Over the past year, La République du Cameroon and its enablers have done everything to break our leadership, has done everything to bring us, create some sort of splinter groups. And thanks to your allegiance, we have been able to overcome. And it is very important that we move forward as one man. And you have to listen to the president. You have to listen to the interim government, because it is only through the interim government that we are going to get our sovereignty. Thank you, and over to you.
Dr. Mungwa, it's always a delight having you here every Tuesday. We missed you last Tuesday, and I'm sure that something that would definitely interest all Ambazonians next Tuesday.
I will. There's some message I want.
All right, Ambazonians, this is, of course, where we'll draw the curtains on tonight's State of the Liberation Movement with Secretary Martin Mungwa, PhD. And, of course, on behalf of my co-anchor here, Stasmat, and the entire Undaunted crew, we say thank you for tuning in.
We'll leave you with ABC Amber TV images now. Good night, and God bless you.